welcome back, everybody. This is episode 2 of Fluid Operations. We are excited to have you here with us. Today is going to be a great episode. We have our guest with us for the first time. This is our first podcast guest. Nathan Baez is with us from Beaufort-Jasper Water Sewer Authority. He's going to introduce himself here in just a second. He's going to tell us a little bit about his operations, what he manages, and then give us a couple of things to talk about today, whether it be troubleshooting, whether it be challenges he's run into, whatever that may be. And as you know, as always, that will always be Miller Truby, my co-host, will be with us, and he will be asking questions as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Nathan right now, let him do a quick introduction, and then we'll get started with the discussion.
Hi, my name is Nathan Baez. I'm a former T2 operator for the state of New Jersey, currently an A license operator for the state of South Carolina, working for Beaufort-Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. And as of right now, I am running a max 12.5, 13 MGD plant that is currently under construction to be expanded to, I believe, a 30 MGD plant.
Oh, wow.
It's the growth in the area.
Yeah,
man. I mean, and you guys wanted to know about current challenges, and the current challenges are the growth of this area and keeping up with the demand of the water. And that's currently something that's been discussed prior, because we're coming up towards the end of our upgrade.
Okay.
So our upgrade, they were talking tentatively towards the end of the summer is when everything will be upgraded, and then we should be clear.
Okay.
From all the construction, and
Gotcha.
the way the population just keeps on flowing into this place.
Yep.
I wouldn't be shocked if another upgrade comes not that long after.
Wow. Okay. So the upgrade, obviously I'm a transplant because I'm recently moved here as well.
That makes
I'm
two
a
of us.
transplant from Wisconsin. So hence why, Beaufort-Jasper needs to increase the treatment.
Yeah, and so like when I had interviewed for the position,
Mm-hmm.
one of the selling points in the interview that the people that were interviewing me liked was that I was coming from a 50 MGD plant.
Gotcha.
And that was 7 different treatment sites scattered across town. That was all well water. This is surface water.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's a lot different. But they had seen that I had the experience from surface water with the first facility I worked at.
Okay.
So when I had gotten down here, I was expecting a 50 MGD plant. And then when I got here, it was like, hey, we need to expand. And so we need people with that kind of capacity of experience.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. And you've been with Beaufort-Jasper now 4 years in a day, right?
Nah. So I will be down here 4 years on, I believe the 23rd will be 4 years.
Okay.
My last day at Suez, now it's Viola, was yesterday on the 14th.
Gotcha.
That is very loud.
Can you hear that guy in the background?
No background noise. We're good.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's great. We have a truck driving by, and he's over there just revving his motor. So this little mic that we have sitting up here is doing some great things.
Perfect.
I'm very surprised. We actually had kids in the background too, just a minute ago on the slides. So, because as you can tell, here in Beaufort, it's a beautiful sunny day. The sun is shining, and we're sitting out here enjoying it. So a lot of challenges there. I mean, obviously the upgrade. How has the upgrade been going on for?
How long has it been going on for?
That's basically doubling the size of the plant.
Yeah. So the exact date I don't have off the top of my head for you.
Sure.
Because they wind up planning these things years prior.
Absolutely.
Now, when they broke ground, I want to say maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe 2 years ago. I don't have the exact date, but it's been a process. And you talk about issues within the utility. It's not an issue, but then you wind up having new people come in, you work around each other because everyone's working towards that common goal,
right,
of the upgrade for the betterment of both Beaufort and Jasper counties, right?
Absolutely.
So those guys, the contractors that have come in, blue chip, great guys.
Awesome.
Not one bad thing to say about those guys.
Perfect.
Obviously you have issues that you run into, but I mean, that's you kind of
it's how you resolve them, right?
You kind of factor that in when you're sitting there breaking ground and finding new things, right?
Absolutely. It's funny because I was preparing for a shed that I'm putting in at the house I live in now.
Yes, sir.
And as I start digging, I uncover 2 wheelbarrows of bricks somehow.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Those are the types of things that just, when you start breaking into something, you just never know what's going to come out of the ground.
When I was building, when we were putting together our backyard, we're taking everything out. And again, for some reason, it's just a bunch of bricks. It's
red bricks with the 3 holes in them.
The 3 holes, and then there was like those stepping stone pads that were like buried, but not like buried like softly underneath the ground, but like maybe about 1.5 feet.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's just like I can make a whole patio set with what's underneath here that people are just like, yeah, we're just gonna let nature fall on it.
Right. Unbelievable. That is crazy. So, question for you: what's the population of Beaufort-Jasper that you're serving now?
The population for Beaufort and Jasper counties are around 231,000 people, I believe, which is much larger than where I came from, where it was around 150,000.
Okay.
But that was for the one town of Toms River. This is servicing 2 entire counties.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's much different, much larger pipeline.
Yeah.
Service area.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. I mean, you guys have Beaufort-Jasper County, which with the waterways here, it creates a different set of challenges than in the Midwest, where you can run pipes pretty straight, and things of that nature. You got to run around lakes and inlets and underground and all that. So how does that affect the distribution?
So this is actually the first place where I've worked at where you have an operator on the north side of the Broad River and an operator on the south side of the Broad River.
Okay.
Right? So when I had gotten here, it's when you're used to working with like by yourself and you are the one operator for the entire service area.
Yep.
That's what you're used to. And then when I came down here, I had to learn how to work in tandem with another operator on the other side of town, because that operator services everything north of the Broad River.
Okay.
Whereas I operate and service everything south of the Broad River.
Gotcha.
So therein lies I was a challenge trying to get used to it, and now I've gotten used to it. I mean, It's not a matter of like getting along with somebody. It's a matter of sitting there and changing the mindset that you have. Whereas like I'm pushing this, pushing that, changing the direction of where you need to go, fill up this tank, fill up that tank.
Right.
Now you have to take into account what is happening on the north side of the river, and you have to communicate.
Yeah.
Communication's massive.
Okay. So that is a unique set of challenges. So he has a different, I'm assuming, set of. So the south, you're running the south side, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So
I mean, it's
south of the Broad River.
Yeah, it's south of the Broad River, but I mean, it's evenly distributed, like where we can see each other's system.
Sure.
But because of the service area, and this is speculative on me and why it's drawn up like this and why I walked into it, it's just a lot of service area and it's broken up that way.
Yeah.
To make it easier for an operator on the north and an operator on the south.
Gotcha. But does he need more water than you, or do you need more water than him?
Currently, it's been us needing more water on our side, because that's Bluffton, right?
Sure.
So that's Bluffton. That's we don't feed directly into Hilton Head. We serve Hilton Head PSD.
Okay. So you supply them with water.
Yes. Gotcha. So we supply them. So currently that's been the issue, is that Bluffton, like this area, not like Bluffton mainly, but this area has been the 6th highest growth population.
Growth population, yeah.
Yeah, 6th highest growth population in the country. And I honestly don't know if it's stopping anytime soon. I really don't. With the amount of like the amount of houses and communities being built up.
Right.
It's wild that I got in when I got in down here. That's because awesome. I looking at the prices of houses and stuff like that now, like I just bought my house I bought my house 3 years ago, and it's about like
doubled in.
It's crazy.
Doubled in what you paid for it, which is awesome. Good for you guys.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to leave.
Right?
Yep. And I think that's a theme too. I mean, I think that is, we hear that in a lot of areas where you've got, areas that used to be rural, but that are desirable either for weather or for some other reason, that are growing now in a post-COVID, work from home world where people can sort of pick where they live. They can live in areas that maybe have a lower cost of living than a big city center would. And so that people are moving to these places, and obviously that has massive real estate implications, but it has massive infrastructure implications as well, with things like water treatment plants and distribution systems and collection systems. That stuff has to keep up. And I mean, I'm sure there's somebody smarter than me out there who could tie the amount of dollars that need to be spent on infrastructure to the real estate price. I mean, maybe, there's your billion dollar app idea, right? Like, look at the real estate prices, where they're growing, and then estimate how much money needs to be spent on the water system and the power grid and whatever else. I got it. Yeah. Maybe we don't put that on the podcast and we just save that as an idea. No, Nate, I've got a question for you though. So can you give us an idea of what that inter-operator communication looks like? I mean, are we talking about is this a phone call or a text message, or is there some more formal SOP that you guys have to follow when communicating?
So you're talking about like what my communication is with the other side, with the north side of the broad. So it is more, it's phone based. It's phone based really. And let's, you guys want to talk about recent trials and tribulations. It's
sure.
Like, we had a shutdown for a tie-in for this construction company, just 2 days ago. Now, with that being said, when we do that, that means the north end needs to supply us a lot more.
Okay. Yep.
So that communication with him, like, hey, we're going to be shut down for X amount of time. I need you to help me out a little bit if you can. And it's something that takes planning, right?
Yep.
It's emails, it's conversations that take place weeks to months in advance, whether it's between the contractors and my bosses or my supervisors.
Right.
And then that obviously trickles down to us, like, hey, on this date, we are shutting down. So you need to get on board with the north side of the plant,
right,
to figure out how they can supply you. They need to be adequately supplied, and you need to be adequately supplied with the amount of water that you have. Now, that's a team effort. It's not just a one-person thing, because that's the entire team of the operators at my plant. That's the entire team of operators at their plant. So, like, you're talking about, in order to fill up those tanks, I mean, and do it not at a rapid pace, because you want to generate turnover. You want to have fresh water in the system. Like, it takes days to sit there and do it the right way.
100%.
And so the communications was between me and that operator for that was phone calls back and forth. If he needs me, he calls me. If I sit there, I give him updates like, hey, we're going to be down. We're still down. I need you to feed us a little bit more. I need you to cut us back less.
Yep.
And it's more so moving water around as keeping it fresh. Like I said, you need to generate that turnover, and that's
absolutely
so vital, because I mean, you're not going to sit there and keep that water stagnant.
Right. And that's where I think one of the things that we are having this podcast is to educate, not just, obviously all your operators understand that, but the people that I'm hoping that are listening to this, that want to learn about water, that are in our communities, that don't understand water. Every time that these guys have to move water, it costs you money, because that's the ratepayer.
Yeah.
We pay the bills for that. They have to move money. So when Nathan's sitting here talking about the criticality of, managing this operation to precise understandings to where the chlorination goes through and, all of that stuff. They can't have it sitting stagnant. They have to fill up certain wells. That is making sure the water at your tap is always fresh, always distributed, because when they have to tie in, they have to shut down their lines. Someone else has to supply that. So they have to do a workaround to make that happen. Those are the things that we don't understand. People outside of our industry don't understand.
No, I get that.
It is a massive undertaking. I mean, how many guys between the North and South plant are involved in this?
Oh, I don't like, so I have communications with the people that are on the north end that fall on my shift.
Sure.
I don't know how many operators they have on that side.
Yeah.
I know on my side we have let's see, we have about 7 guys.
Right.
Now we have 7 guys now, saying that we have 4 licensed operators, and then the rest are trainees, because that's another, that's another thing, is that you need to establish your operators, and not many people like you or not many people like me that want to transplant out into another utility. Most people, when they become operators, they're in the utility until they retire.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been seeing a change in that, though. We see a lot of, I'm the national sales manager for Turing, who we work for. And when I'm talking to people, the unique thing is there's a lot of people, they get into those utilities and they're switching now. They're moving around. I'm seeing a shift, but that could be wrong too. Because one of the things, and maybe it's more not a shift as much as because we're losing current experienced people, that they have to hire these other people, and maybe they're just moving because they have to fill a void there.
Yeah. So the man that got me into water treatment, Joe Frieda, he had told me, one of my very best friends, he had told me very early on, because the first plant I worked at was a 5.5 MGD plant.
Nice.
And he was like, this is your training wheels facility.
Okay.
He's like, this is where you learn everything.
Yep.
He goes, because everything's within your reach. Right there on his property, there was a couple wells that were out there, but he's like, everything that can go wrong, this is where you're going to learn. Nice. Right here. And then you expand out, and then you grow out. You find a larger utility, and then you make your move. He's like, and then if you don't like the spot that you're at, he goes, I need you to understand that although you are moving to another utility, you need to keep your eyes out in case something else happens. You know what I mean? Like, in case somebody sits there and calls you up like, hey, I'd like to speak with you about a position. Well, he sat there and said, you need to entertain it, even if 99% of them are gonna not match up to the place that you're at.
Right.
And it happened up in New Jersey. It's happened down here quite a bit. But it's kind of tough to sit there and pull someone away where they live in Vacationville, USA.
Fair enough. Because that is a tricky part too, because a lot of times, with utilities, they're undermanned. They're, you have a lot of challenges when you go to a new utility because you don't know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
There's all those things you have to learn too. So I can see that as being I know this, I've got this. I understand what's here and what I'm working with on a daily basis. You understand the challenges that you're faced with. You know how to manage those challenges. That's a unique, it's a unique environment to be in.
Yeah. So when you're talking about undermanned utilities, it's because, operators, I feel like you have this surge of retiring operators, because once you get in that position, it's a good career. And it's a career that nobody's ever thought of. I never even thought a water treatment operator was an actual thing until my friend told me about it.
Right.
And that's usually how people get into it, is I know a guy, I know this, I know this guy, my aunt works here, my uncle works here, so on and so forth. It's not a position that's advertised. It's not a position that the general public knows about.
Right.
It needs to be kind of caddied a couple years prior to those operators retiring with the trainees, because when those operators do decide to, cash in, I put in my work, I've done my stuff.
Yep.
Those new operators need to be brought up then.
Sure.
Because sitting there and relying on again, people like you, people like me, to sit there and just, you know what, I'm just gonna pick up and move to this town that I've never heard of before.
Right. Right.
Like that was me. Like I sat there, I was like, Beaufort, South Carolina. I was like, it's a beach town. I come from a beach town. I was like, as long as there's the ocean, I was like, it can't be too terrible.
Right. Well, as you can all see, the sun is shining.
Yep. A huge amount of what we talk about too, Nate, is this idea of institutional knowledge transfer. And I'm glad you brought it up, because it's a reminder that that stuff happens. You know, it's not just when somebody retires and you have all of their knowledge that you're trying to transfer, but it also applies to what you were talking about just a few minutes ago, day-to-day stuff. You know, if you've got 4 guys on who are capable of operating the plant, 4 operators, and you have a change between your plant, the south plant, and the north plant that happens over the phone, and let's say it's a response to an emergency, you know, a contractor cuts a line or something like that, and you're trying to respond to it, and you guys make a decision about how to change the operation, there then has to be a way to transfer that knowledge of what you did when your shift ends to the next guy coming in, so that they know what that decision making was. And I mean, even that, just that one little thing at the end of a shift ends up being that institutional knowledge transfer. And, you know, we hear from people all the time the idea that, well, yeah, how do we do this? We write it down on a piece of paper, and the next guy comes in and we hand him the piece of paper, or it's written on a board somewhere, or the state of the plant at the end of shift A. And when shift B comes in, their first thing they're supposed to do is read the board. And, you know, that's one of the things we're always interested in talking about. Are there ways that we can streamline that sort of stuff? Are there ways that the industry overall should be streamlining that sort of stuff? And then that obviously scales out to the bigger knowledge transfers that you have when somebody retires or changes jobs or gets promoted or whatever that might be. Is that something that you guys deal with in terms of trying to do those little knowledge transfers day in and day out?
We honestly, like, it's a people thing. You have to want to work with somebody, and whether or not they want to try something new, or you need to try something, or you want to, like, hey, I feel like if we operate doing this way or we operate doing that way, you have to be open-minded to how they want to operate. Now, what we've been doing with your communications, we do meetings. Nice. We have meetings, and it's whether or not it's a whole thing where we get together, we discuss issues, anything that's been irregular that's happened. I can't take credit for it, but the one other operator, Aaron, it was his idea.
Oh, nice.
It was his idea. He's a 27-year-old kid, very bright, very smart, where he's like, I want to, anything that was irregular that happened and we were able to rectify it, I want to keep a log of it in case it happens, because not many people, if not any people, know that there's no training log for this position. There's no training book for this position. You just have to hope that the person that you're with is well enough versed to sit there and train you. If not, then then you put your fate into your supervisor's hands, which in my experience, I've had the best of luck.
Yeah, that's great.
I've had the best of luck.
That's awesome.
From Joe McLaren to Devin Corbett, Jim Mastrakalis to George Zito, I've had such great luck.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, and I know it's not like that all the time. So
sure.
It's honestly that it's communications. You have to talk to everybody, and you have to sit there and be open to other people's ideas. Now, like, if you have the prior experience, like, hey, this didn't work, and you have the proof, like, hey, it didn't work because this, right? Like, it didn't pan out, and you show them, like, hey, it didn't work for me. They might be more understanding, but if you just sit there and shut people down,
right,
it's gonna jade some people.
Absolutely.
And you have to take people into consideration, because it's a people aspect that, I mean, when you get to a certain point within a utility, within your career, depending on how high up you go, right?
Right.
Like you might wind up looking at those people as numbers and names on a paper.
Right.
But for us down on the lower level, talking to them and keeping that in mind, it's just it's paramount.
Yep.
Absolutely. It is, because it's like everybody has a family. Everybody wants to be talked to like,
they should be.
Like you're somebody.
Yeah, well, we all are.
You know what I mean? Like you want to be talked to like you're somebody. You don't want to be disregarded,
right?
As such.
Absolutely.
And that's the communications that we have.
Yeah.
Love
that.
Now we had that in Manalapan. We did not have that in Tom's River.
Okay.
But we have it here.
Right, which is great. So you talk about what was the gentleman's name? That's 27.
Oh, Aaron.
So Aaron came up with this idea. You guys are logging things now. How do you log it? Is it?
Oh, so all right. So I might have led you to believe that we log it. We have the meetings.
Yep.
We have the meetings and we have our shift work, our shift exchange. Now we log stuff in our day-to-day stuff and anything that might be like warranted to be logged in our log book, which is online through Hawk.
Okay, so it's a Hawk.
So that's a Hawk, but what I was talking about prior was like any irregular or regular things. That stuff it's a discussion with everybody. Gotcha. Like it's like, hey, this happened, that happened, and this was the cause, and this is how we fixed it.
Right. So that's where that's why I'm asking the questions, because one of the things that we're looking to do, obviously, is how do we capture that?
Okay.
How do you capture that knowledge to where somebody else can go look for that?
Yeah. So that for that stuff that we were talking about with the irregular stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have we had discussed writing it down in logbook.
Yeah.
Right now it's word of mouth.
Okay.
But it gets captured by people wanting to do it.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's captured by people wanting to do it. It was a discussion that he brought up to me, and I was like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then as soon as him and I were discussing it, then it was our two supervisors heard it from down the hall. I'm like, that's a great idea.
Nice.
And so like it needs to be sent out well, and it needs to be received well.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So like you have to have somebody that wants to sit there and make the job easier for everybody.
Absolutely.
Right, because like everybody,
they want to be invested in what we're doing. We all are passionate about what we're doing.
Yeah, which is wild, because I never thought I knew what water treatment was at all, one bit. And then next thing I know, I'm supplying my friends, my mom, my kids, my grandmother, the nice lady down the road. Like I'm doing this for them.
It's vital.
Yeah, and I've told some of the guys there, especially when we wind up switching to night shift.
Yeah. And
we alternate. It feels like it's a much, much more boring version of being Batman. That's what it is, man. Is that it's like, and on top of that, like when you're working the night shift and you're going home and you're seeing everyone go to work, you're like, I've done my duties. Good night. I'm going to sleep.
That's great. Actually, I have a question that kind of ties into that. So, it sounds like you guys there at Beaufort-Jasper haven't had too many issues with labor and finding people who want to do the job. I wonder how much the management and the sort of culture that you guys have built, being communicative and sort of supporting people who want to make changes or make improvements, does that tie into that at all, or is it just luck of the draw that you guys have enough people interested in doing the job?
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. We have, since I moved here 4 years ago, I am the third most senior guy at the plant. That we've had a mass exodus of people retiring. So we have a slew of trainees that are, I believe we have two that, and for anyone that's unfamiliar, you need to have a B license operator license in order to operate the plant. You have to have that. Anything lower than that, you can't sign.
Right.
We have 4 for 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days. Right. Now, our supervisors, they are obviously licensed, right, as they should be.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I didn't mean to discount those guys, but I'm just talking about the day-to-day operators.
Right.
So we have the people in place. It's just a matter of them getting their licenses. So we have the people in place. We have the desire that's there, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, what's the average time it takes to get a B license?
Now, that is not something that I'm not too well versed in, because when I came from New Jersey, I had reciprocity.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, and for anyone that's unfamiliar with reciprocity, I was licensed in the state of New Jersey, and then I applied for that for the state of South Carolina. I believe there's only 2 states that don't accept reciprocity. I believe that's Florida and South Dakota. I could be wrong.
Okay.
And sorry for South Dakota operators if that's not the case, but
either way.
But I know it's Florida for sure. I know Florida is one of them. So when I had came in, what they did was they knocked me down a peg. Whereas I was supposed to come in as a C level license operator, I came in with my D level license.
Okay.
And they told me that if I were to pass my C, then I would get my C license released, and I would have to wait a year.
Right.
Wait a year, get the year of experience. When I pass my B, then my B would get released. Now, that was half true, because I had college credits that I was able to send into the state of South Carolina.
Okay.
And that then gave me 6 months, so I only had to wait 6 months.
Oh, nice.
So I passed my test.
Yep.
Passed my B test.
Yep.
And then it wound up being 6 months before I was just off and running. So for a trainee to sit there and come in, or somebody brand new, I couldn't tell you what the process is. I know that it's a lot less strict than New Jersey was.
Yeah.
New Jersey was, you sit there, you come in, you get your year service time. Then you can apply for your first license. Now you fail that test, you wait 6 months.
Right.
And then
I love hearing that, because this is very vital, critical, right?
Mm-hmm.
The distribution of the water, how it operates, how it functions, how we get it out to the people. I think it's very important for people to understand this is a complicated, complex job. And it's not something that's taken lightly by any of these operators out in the field. They are educated with tons of education. They obviously have years of experience to get to these levels. Then they have to go to different classes. You have to get CEUs and all that stuff, and they have to get those. They have to do that all the time. And that's why they have all these conferences all the time, because everyone can't go to every conference, so they need to have all these conferences. So that's why those conferences are out there. That's why they ask, Turing and other manufacturers to sponsor those to help these guys get their credits.
Online classes and things like that.
Absolutely. Yep. So I think that's really important for the audience to know, because that's something that's, not well known. People just think you just go in and just start working as an operator.
Just kind of get plucked and dropped in there. Like
you just turn a valve and it just comes out. And
that is one of the, so the whole turn the valve thing. Yeah, that's a real thing. I have friends that believe that water should be free and all this other stuff. And I'm not going to lie. Before that, I didn't think that it should be free, but I certainly didn't pay any mind into it. I was like, the faucet's just right there. I'm just going to open the valve and just, that's where it comes from,
right,
and stuff like that. But now that I'm about 9 years into it.
Okay.
This June, 9 years this June, I understand it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more intricate than I ever thought.
You're learning something new, I bet you, all the time.
If you're not willing to learn something new, then you're plateauing. You're not bettering yourself.
Right.
And if you're not bettering yourself, then that's boring, man. That's just boring. If you don't want to be better every day, it's boring. You want to be like being stagnant like that, water in the tanks.
Yep. The last mile of the pipe, right?
You just kind of die off, and it's just not fun. Like I want to grow. If I'm not evolving, I feel like I'm devolving. That's a personal thing on my end.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Going a little bit on the idea of building that camaraderie and that chemistry. I think we've talked about that in a few different ways now, just in the last hour that we've been chatting. I think that's really important and critical in any team related job. But it seems like it's especially important for operators and administrators to sort of build and spend the time building that culture and that camaraderie, because if that trust isn't there, you guys get into high, tense situations, high criticality things where, if somebody makes a big mistake, you can really hurt people. And so, I mean, it's interesting. It seems like one of the things the industry could be doing a better job of in general is making sure that operators have the opportunity to do that sort of stuff and find ways to help teams build that chemistry and camaraderie outside of the actual tasks of the job. Is that something you think would help or would be beneficial to see more of that?
Oh, it would absolutely help. I mean, and I'm gonna call a spade here. I believe the camaraderie starts at the top, right?
Yep.
Like your supervisors need to, like, one of the things that I was told by, like I said, George Zito on my phone interview before I got down here. He's like, we are family oriented. I mean, we are a utility, but he's like, we place family as it's paramount, and we understand that your home life is important too.
Yep.
And that was hearing that coming from Toms River, which Toms River was, I mean, it's New Jersey, it's northeast, so like it's more hustle bustle, kind of like
100%.
It was refreshing.
Yeah.
And I believe that those guys up at the top, those supervisors, needing to include and or just be open to your operators' ideas.
Yep.
It starts there, and then when they you see that, then that makes you want to be a better operator with your colleagues.
Yep.
And I feel like we have that.
Nice.
I mean, I feel like we have that. I mean, and again, like I wasn't trying to disparage Suez, now it's Viola, but I thought it was great to hear,
the family side of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because I mean, at the time I was moving down here. I had three little girls. I have three little girls.
Right.
Yeah, I have three little girls. I can't not forget about them. And they were all so young. Yep. So I mean, to sit there and obviously shift work. You're gonna work holidays. You're gonna work, birthdays and 100%. Stuff like that. You're gonna work nights. To hear that, it was great. Well, I want to sit here and ask you guys something because you guys are brand new.
Okay.
What I discussed with you beforehand.
Yeah.
How are you guys going to kind of defeat the stigma of people like you guys wanting to reach out to operators like me and not having them feel so jaded? Like, I didn't feel that way. You and I have had great communications.
100%.
This is my first time not seeing Mr. Miller, but talking to him. There you are.
I'm here.
How are you guys going to overcome that stigma of, I wouldn't do that. That's some kind of media, this, that, and the other thing. I'd be a liar if I sat there and said all right, I was like, they could ask me some off the cuff questions, but you reassured me. Everything was open communication with me.
100%.
So how do you sit there and defeat that going forward? Because if I'm number one, I'm hoping that you guys are going to sit there and be doing this for quite some time.
Absolutely. And that is the goal. So the goal is to continue down that path. So hopefully sharing this story, the podcast out with others, it's holding true to our word. Like we said, we're asking a few questions here and there that are about touring because obviously that's our line of business, right?
Yeah.
But we're not trying to sell you anything.
No.
We're just asking questions because we're using this, like you said, we're trying to learn. we're trying to educate ourselves on what are your guys' challenges, so then we can take that back and help our developers and designers and all those people learn as well, because that's part of this whole thing is this everyone learning from each other. I'm not there day to day to really understand your operations. I understand the operations because I've been in it for so long, but I don't understand what happens day to day. That was the first time I've heard the length of communication that it takes. I knew it was a big process to cut in a line and do all that, but I didn't realize how much. And those are the types of things that we're trying to learn. We just want to keep, we hope that something you shared today will help someone else. When you talked about Aaron, right?
Yeah.
When Aaron came up with that meeting, maybe someone else is going to hear this and they're going to do that. And if we can transfer that knowledge to one other utility, and then we get someone else from that conversation on this podcast and they talk about one other thing that they're doing and you learn from that, or someone else learns from that and it just spirals out. That's what this whole thing's about.
Okay.
It's about learning, educating, hearing the stories. Hopefully the people outside of here are, our customers will be hearing this as well and understanding the challenges and the difficulty it is to run these plants and operate these plants. And I told you when we were on the phone, I mean, these guys, for the audience, these guys literally run 365. COVID, these guys went into the office and worked.
Oh, COVID was something special.
Yeah.
COVID was something special. We had designated trucks for COVID.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
designated
fun.
trucks, and we had designated plants.
Right.
And this was up in New Jersey. This wasn't here. Those are fun, and everything got disinfected.
Yep.
But some guys took their trucks back because it was their trucks, and
we still had line breaks.
It was everything still had like
and you have to fix that. You all have to be together.
That aspect of COVID was, for me, up in New Jersey, was maddening because the operators needed to be in there.
Yep.
We had to operate the plant. The road crew opted to stay home. The tech maintenance guys opted to stay home.
Gotcha.
But I mean, that was a union environment.
Oh yeah.
So like that was a union environment. So like they opted for this, but then they still wanted the pay, and it was maddening because I was like, I'm here now.
Right. Working.
I'm here now. You guys aren't here. We need to figure out something to make this. If you're calling me essential, you need to, if you're registering yourself as essential, I'm essential, but only one of us is here. You're not essential.
Gotcha.
But there shouldn't be, like, they were essential.
Oh, absolutely.
Because main breaks happen.
Absolutely.
Things need to get fixed.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So like COVID was a fun time, man.
Replace. You got to grease everything. You got to maintain all the pumps that you push water around with, and there's just a lot. There's a lot in these systems that the general public doesn't know. Like all the pumps that you have and how many operating pumps you have, and every time that pump turns, there has to be maintenance to it and all that kind of stuff. So there's just a lot out there that we're
alternating pumps. Alternating pumps.
Absolutely.
Keeping everything
redundancy. You don't buy one pump, you buy two pumps.
Because you can't have enough backups, right?
Exactly.
You never know when the seal's gonna.
Miller, what do you have? I know you have something to say on this.
Yeah, I do, and it's going back to the question that you asked. The reason that we started this came from a conversation that Kirk and I had where we were talking about the media that's out there in the water industry space, and just kind of lamenting that everybody talks to the CEOs, everybody talks to the administrative people, they talk to the researchers, the PhD candidates, the materials science guys, and nobody's really talking to the operators. And it's a very different world. Kirk and I have been lucky enough, both of us have been in positions where we've, as representatives of a company, a solutions manufacturer, throughout our careers, have had a chance to go in and sit and try and solve a problem with the operations team. And it's always fascinating to do it for us and to go into those situations, because we get to be there for a day or a week or maybe 2 weeks, solve a problem, and then we get to walk away. And I think for both of us, we've been in that position of flying away from some remote plant that had a major issue and thinking, wow, those guys still have to go and do that again tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that too. And those stories don't really get told enough. And it's valuable stuff. And especially then for us as Turing, trying to come up with ways that we can make products that will make operators better at their jobs, or maybe just, more comfortable in their jobs. We need to be talking about what is actually preventing operators at any level from doing a better job, and what are the actual problems look like. And I would hope that, the stigma that you talked about with not wanting to tell these stories to somebody who is perceived as media, even though we're really not media. I would hope we can get
podcasting new media.
It is
we are, but we're certainly not better influencers yet.
Yeah. You don't say.
Yeah.
Really?
Come on.
You're not an influencer?
Episode 1 went out yesterday. I think there's 8 views.
But I would hope that stigma, because I think you're right. I think that exists, and I would hope that could actually be a point of conversation. Why don't you trust media types? Why don't you want to tell these stories to the general public? Why don't we talk about this stuff as an industry? Because I think that's an interesting topic in and of itself. And, I would hope that people will give us the opportunity to do that. But I also completely understand why somebody might not want to, come and tell a story about things that worked or didn't work or that sort of stuff. But I hope it's worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't met with any kind of resistance from our media guy or anyone. You know what I mean? They were like, they sat there and they're like, well, just keep in mind, we pay your check. I'm like, I get that, but I mean, I'm not like, we're not doing anything bad, man. Like, I'm not a jaded employee. I like everybody that I'm with. I mean, I try and take something good from everybody that I work with.
Yep.
Because I mean, whether or not they're perceived to be good or bad operators, there's always something that you can pull of a quality that you can use yourself.
Yep.
And not like, I've based my entire time being an operator off that. And I like to say I use people, but I use people's knowledge. Like, if I feel like something and I'm not that well versed in it, I'm not going to puff out my chest and peacock like, I got this. Like, no, all right, something, your knowledge is going to help me.
Right.
And that makes me better.
Right.
Evolve or else I'm devolve.
Right.
Like, I'm not like, it'll only hurt me if I'm not trying to be open and honest with myself and like where I'm at.
Absolutely. One of the last questions I had for you is, if there is one thing right now that you could change or fix in your day-to-day job, what would that be?
One thing I could change or fix in my day-to-day job. I mean, it's just time. Okay. Honestly, it's just time. I believe the utility that we have. I mean, these guys are on the cusp of obtaining their licenses, and then we'll be fine. We'll have more than enough capable signing license operators at the one plant.
That's awesome.
Again, like I said, I don't know how many they have at Chelsea plant because that's their day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
I mean, and as you guys know, within this industry, you get placed somewhere in the middle of the sticks, and you're pretty much just kept up and held up there, and that's what it is. But it's time. I mean, that's the one thing I would change, because I believe we have more than enough capable operators right now, and it's just them having to serve time to have their licenses released.
Okay.
That's really it. I mean, and on the inverse too, right? Like, there's some of these guys that are getting ready to retire, and I wish I could have worked with them longer.
Right.
Like, not just for knowledge, but for camaraderie. Like, these are like good guys that like, I was like, oh man, maybe only a couple more years. What do you like?
Right.
Why retire and go work at Tractor Supply? Come over here, hang out here, man. And that's unfair of me to ask, because like they put in their time, they put in the work, they put in their sacrifices, and they've earned that right.
Absolutely.
To go. It's just me being selfish and be like, you know what?
I had that same thought.
I like working with you, man. Let's work a little bit longer.
Right. Because when I got into this industry, I was in the diffused aeration business.
Okay.
So, and I had the same thing when I started there. All of the people that kind of set it up and developed it were gone. So, and it would have been great to, like you said, learn from their knowledge, feed off of them, and how did you come up with this? All the different questions you could ask. So I totally understand that. But like you said, it's kind of selfish. They put in their time. They worked hard. They did all their stuff.
The guy that's getting ready to retire right now, his name is Mark.
Yeah.
And I love him because I mean, if you've been in this industry, you know that it's just a slew of characters, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a slew of characters, and he is cream of the crop. My man is, and he's so smart where it's almost nauseating because when you talk to him and he speaks to you about like the problem that you're asking about, it's just a brain dump of knowledge, and you kind of have to sit there and look at it like, where's the valve to turn this off for a second so I could digest all this information.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that I wish I had more time with him because I'm not on shift with him. I see him sparingly, so on and so forth. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff you're like, I need to learn from that guy right there.
Right there.
And he's great.
Perfect. Love that. Miller, do you have any last questions before we wrap up our second episode of Fluid Operations?
No, I think we've picked Nathan's brain here about as much as we wanted to for this. We very much appreciate the time, Nathan. This has been really good, and I can't think of a better way to start off and have the first guest on the podcast here with somebody who's willing to come in and talk shop and tell stories to us. So thank you for doing that.
But this has been a fantastic conversation, Nathan. We
appreciate it.
We can't thank you enough for being our first guest.
Okay.
Super excited to be here today. I know we had some complications early on, but it's been a fantastic discussion, and appreciate you asking us questions as well. And, thank you again. And we look forward to future podcast, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. I appreciate you reaching out.
Absolutely.
Very good.
All right.
Well, this has been the Fluid Operations Podcast with Kirk Wessel and Miller Truby. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next episode.